Okay, so I'm Jimmy Welch. I've been in real estate for, I've been an agent for probably about 15 years. I did sell new homes for a builder. I did work for a developer for about 10 years. My builder was Mansour Builders. Dave Mansour gave me my start. He was kind of my mentor when I was younger, and I kind of owe mostly what I've accomplished through Dave, whether it's been on my investment side of my business or on my real estate side. So long story short, I'm born and raised in Louisville. I went to Bellarmine College, graduated, started working at Sears because they paid the most money back then. For those who are old like me, you used to get a Christmas catalog. You call the 800 number, order stuff out of the Christmas catalog. Well, I worked out First Form Navy. We took about 22,000 calls a day. So you're talking about lead generation. People were calling us, placing orders. We're taking the calls and all that stuff. So I did that for a few years, left, went to work for a builder, like I said, Mansour, then went to work for the largest developer in town that was NTS. Then, after NTS, kind of sold myself out of a job, and I went to become a general agent, not knowing what the hell I was doing. So, fast forward, 5 years at Remax, clueless, selling about, 15, 20 homes a year, never came to the office, never learned about technology, never learned about growing a business. Keller Williams, they had a team leader at the time who used to be an employee of mine at NTS, who said, "Hey Jimmy, you need to come to Keller Williams. Our culture, our team building, everything's really cool. You'll love it. You can have a team like you did at NTS. I'm sure you'll do good." So it was the only company back then, and it's probably still the same way. I don't know if it is still the same way, but back then, if you had a pulse and sold one home a year, Century 21 would call you, Seminole would call you, Remax would call you and say, "Hey, we'd love for you to come work for us." Well, Keller Williams was one of the only few companies I actually looked at. And when I came here, I remember I met a couple people, and I was walking through, and somebody said, "Hey, who do you use for your, who's your CRM?" I'm like, "CRM? What the hell's a CRM? And hey, who's your internet platform that gets your leads for you?" I'm like, "What the hell is this guy? What software do you use for sale by owners expired?" I swear to God, that's my first day at Keller Williams, and I'm looking around thinking, I don't know what the hell I'm doing in real estate. I have no clue. And so I said, I got to get to this company because they're light years ahead of me, and they were. So fast forward, I come to Keller Williams as an individual agent. I used to know my numbers by heart, but I think it was like 30 homes my first year, 47, then 53, then 74, then 108, 155, 179. And 196 and 218. And so when those numbers got bigger, it's because I got bigger. I started off as an individual agent, then started hiring team members. So last year, very blessed. We have great people that work on our team. We did 218 homes for $55 million. Now, enough about me because that'll bore you. Let's talk about you guys. What's the most important thing in real estate? 3 L's, right? In Gary Keller's Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. And I'm sure Caitlin knows the 3 L's.
Listing, leverage, and leads.
Yep. So 3 L's, leads, listings, and leverage. The most important one's listings. Why are listings the most important? Anybody? Lawrence?
You get buyers from them, so you'll,
Yeah, you get buyers from. Jamie, you want to add on?
Yeah, it's leverage and leads.
Yeah. Yeah, because your sign's out there working for you 24 hours a day. People driving by, see your name on, call. They might not want your home, but guess what? You can sell them another home, right? So listings are the lifeblood of our business. If you're not focused on listings, you're missing the ball game. When I first got into the business, all I was worried about is buyers. I had friends that were buying. I didn't know how important listings were. So listings are the lifeblood. So let's talk about listings. And I'm kind of one of the guys who will shoot from the hip. I didn't prepare anything really for you guys, but this is something I teach my team. We just went over, what I'm going to show you today is something we went over 3 weeks ago for the agents on my team. And we're going to talk about listing scripts. We're going to talk about Ford. Everybody here knows what Ford is? Who knows what Ford is? Raise your hand. I see 3. Okay. Ford, in my opinion, is the most important thing, whether you're converting a listing, an internet lead, a face-to-face. Ford is the most important thing. And it's family, occupation, recreation, dreams. Now, why do people do business with you? There's 2 reasons people do business with you. Who knows what the 2 reasons are?
They like you.
Good listener.
Hold on, Larry said the first one.
They like you.
One is they like you. What's the second one?
Successful.
Trust you.
They trust you. There's only 2 reasons people do business with you. One, they like you. 2, they trust you. Well, why do they trust you? They trust you because you know what you're talking about. Because you might have been referred by somebody. Because you have a successful track record. That's why they trust you. They like you. Why does your spouse like you? You know? Caitlin, I see you post on Instagram, you and your husband are doing all this stuff. You know what? He likes you because you have a good personality, you're nice to him, you treat him better than anybody else treat him. They like you because you're friendly, because you're outgoing, because you relate to them, you care about them. So Ford is all about that. When I go on a listing presentation with somebody, believe me, when I walk in that door, I'm thinking about Ford. I'm thinking how I'm going to ask them about their family. I'm going to ask them how am I going to ask about their occupation, what they do. I'm going to ask them about what they do outside of work. I'm going to ask them what their dreams are. Where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you see yourself going? What's the end plan? So anyway, let's talk about listing scripts. Now, you know, the class says listing scripts and Ford, but really I'll talk about listing scripts more than I talk about listings. So listing scripts, let me pull this up real quick. When we go on a listing presentation, we basically have certain things we want to get mentioned during the listing presentation. So when you go on a listing presentation, I'm not talking about someone who is a sphere client of yours. Because a sphere client of yours, you can go in there smelling like whiskey and weed and get the listing. If they like you, you can go in there smelling like whiskey and weed, you're going to get the listing because they're your sphere, right? And they might be drinking with you and smoking with you. So anyway, when we go in there, of course we're going to tour the home. We're going to walk around with them. When we're walking around with them, we're thinking about things that might need to be improved, things they might need to do. And then we're going to we're going to sit down at the table and we have our comps ready, right? We're ready to say, okay, here it is. So, you know, we sit down with them. We're establishing our relationship with them while we're walking through. And then one of the first things we say is 3 things sell real estate, all right? And so when we sit there and I'll say, hey, Caitlin, you know, thanks for having me over to your house. Your house is beautiful. You know, I tell them a little bit about me and I try to get them to kind of like me. And how am I going to get them to like me? Well, let me tell you a little bit about me. My name's Jimmy Welch. Appreciate you calling me. You know, I'm married. I got 2 kids. My son, he's 14 years old. His name's Andrew. He's why I'm half bald and gray. My daughter, she's as sweet as can be. Her name's Mary Grace. She's 16, just started driving last week. Hey, when I'm not working, I spend most of my time doing what my kids do. My son's playing sports, I'm watching them. So I'm trying to tell them a little bit about me to kind of say, hey, I'm a nice guy. Matter of fact, in our listing paperwork, when I go over to meet somebody, it has Jimmy Welch, and then right underneath it says, overall nice guy. And that's no BS. And it tells about my history. So I sit down with them and I say, hey, you know, Larry, there's 3 things that sell real estate, Larry. Do you know what those 3 things are? And guess what most of them say? Location, 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 right? Well, wrong. Here's the 3 things that sell real estate. And here's my script I use. I say, hey, Larry, real estate's not rocket science. There's only 3 things that sell real estate. Location, condition, and price. And then what I do, you gotta know your stats. So what I do is when I talk to them, I say, hey, there's only 3 things that sell real estate. You know, it's pretty simple. It's not rocket science. And I do it so it's not a script, right? I'm kind of casual, kind of easygoing. I'm gonna say, well, it's location, condition, price. Now guess what? Only 2 of those things you can change. You can change your condition, you can change your price, right? So what happens if your home's on the market for 30 days and we don't have any offers and we're not getting many showings? What is it a problem of? It's a problem of condition and price. So Pam, do you want to add hardwood floors and stainless steel appliances to your home, or do you want a lower price? So it's kind of like that. And I was telling them, hey, after 30 days, I'm the Grim Reaper. I'm calling you on the phone and I'm saying, hey, guess what? Susan, you know, we've been on market 30 days. We've had 5 people in here, and you saw the feedback. It says we're a little bit overpriced. Remember when I first met with you, I said real estate's not rocket science, remember? Yeah, I remember you saying that. told you 3 things sell your home, right? What are they? Location, condition, and price. I told you also if it doesn't sell, it's a function of 2 of those things, right? Condition or price. Yep, Jimmy, you did tell me that. So what are we gonna do, Susan? We gonna change your condition? We gonna lower your price? 9 times out of 10, they're gonna change your condition. But I can tell you on listings in Craig's Creek and Copperfield, I had feedback where it was specifically condition feedback. Love the home, kitchen was dated, the appliances are old. Well, you know what? I had that a couple times. The appliances are old, So you know what? I told our clients, both for, I think it's Craig's Creek, it's off 22 on the right, in Copperfield. I had that happen to me last year, where we were getting feedback that was condition specific. So when I called my clients, I basically said, hey, listen, you know what? We can lower the price, or we can spend $2,600 and get stainless steel appliances delivered and installed, take new pictures. And I'm not BSing when I tell you this. We put stainless steel appliances in one of the homes on Copperfield, and the other listing we actually said, hey, we will add stainless appliances, here's all the model numbers, here's the pictures for any offer that's acceptable to my seller. The other one we did it, guess what? We sold both those homes within a week of doing those things. And that's a true fact. So location, condition, price, we always use that. Now, after I say location, condition, price, here's how you establish their confidence. And what I say is, oh, guess what? By the way, guys, we sold our homes last year in an average of 28 days for 98.6% of our asking price. And everybody, whether you're on a team or individual, you have your statistics right. You gotta know how long it took your home to sell and what percentage of asking price you got. You gotta kind of look at it like, hey, I'm interviewing for this job, and here's my resume. You know, 1, I want you to like me. 2, I want you to trust me. 3, I want you to tell you why homes sell, location, condition, price. And then, oh, by the way, every home I listed last year, averaged 28 days, 98.6% of asking price. And people sometimes, when you throw out numbers like that, and also I'll print out my listings and show them the ones that sold and say, here it is. And they're like, wow. Now listen, the market was hot last year. Not as hot right now, but it was hot last year, right? Those statistics are good, but if you listed a $200,000 home last year and didn't sell in a day, you probably screwed something up on the listing. So now, that's the first thing. That's the first thing I do when we're sitting down at the table face to face after I walk through the home. But before I walk through the home, there's this other thing that I like to talk about. It's called the eyes of a buyer. Has anybody ever heard of the seller's 10 sheet that Keller Williams has? It's basically a sheet that you turn into your seller when you get in the door, and it says, hey, why don't you fill out this sheet? Why I walk through your home as the eyes of a buyer to look at how a buyer will perceive it. So basically it says, hey, would you mind filling out this seller's 10 sheet while I look through the home on my own so that I can see it through the eyes of a buyer? I want to evaluate how updated it is, see if there's any repairs we need to do that would prevent us from selling. Great, I'll be back in 5 minutes. Now, I'm going to tell you this, depending on the person, if you walk through a home with somebody, and if Caitlin's taking me through her home with her husband, she's going to say, oh, Jimmy, look, I painted this room neon green. It looks great, doesn't it? And hey, you like my shag carpet? And I did this, I did this. Well, every seller has pride of ownership. So they're going to be pitching all the pluses and minuses of your home. Hey, I should have done this, but they're going to be pitching the pluses, right? Well, when you walk through yourself, I'm looking around, I'm like, okay, there's stains on the carpet here. There's caulking issues around the tub right here. Some towels cracked and spilled away. The moldings. I'm making all my notes that I'm thinking, how's a buyer gonna see the home? Now, for those people working with buyers, what's the easiest home to sell? A home that is move-in, right? Is that the easiest home to sell? Why? Anybody?
Because they don't have to imagine, they don't have to use their imagination, it's all done.
Right. Pam said it right. It's already all done. They don't have to clean it, they don't have to re-caulk it, they don't have to fix their trim, they don't have to clean the carpets. It's ready to go. So move-in ready, those are the easiest to do. So when I do it, sometimes I'll let the clients walk with me, sometimes I'll give them the seller's 10 sheet. I'm being totally honest with you on that. It just depends on the feel I get. Like yesterday I had a listing appointment, and it was in Oldham County. It's gonna come on the market for $315,000 this Friday. And it's one of those things, and I'll tell you this, I was competing with the agent who sold that home a couple years ago. And so I'm thinking, okay, this is gonna be tough. They sold the home, so of course I did my research, went out there and was using these scripts, and I said, hey, 3 things sell your home: location, condition, location, price, condition. Well, one of the things that they've done since they bought the home, they repainted the whole home. They put hardwood floor all throughout the first floor, and I mean, it's staged beautifully. And so I was like, your condition's fine, your location's great. Let's talk about price. Now, why did I want to talk to her about price? I talked to my team about this at the team meeting day. This is one of the things that I felt real good about, because I'm trying to establish myself as an expert, right? And I'm going out there and I'm showing them comps. And so here's what I noticed on their home. Bought it 2 years ago. List price was $284. Sales price was $300. And I'm like, okay. And on my notes on that listing, I wrote bidding war, ? Because I'm gonna show her that, and her husband, and say, hey, listen, what happened here? So then I had some other comps too that was pretty interesting within a mile radius of her home that also sold within a couple days, and it might have been listed for $275 and sold for $277 was one of them. One of them sold for $2,000 more than the asking price, and one of them sold for $1,500 more than the asking price. Yet these clients paid $16,000 more. And so now, I asked my team this, I'm gonna ask you this. So I'm sitting in front of there and I'm showing comps, and I showed 3 homes, hers and 2 others that also within a couple days, also for asking price. So, what do you ask those sellers? Why did you pay $16,000 more than listed? How do you ask that though? Hey, tell me about this. I see that, you know, this house sold in 2 days and you paid more than asking price. Were there multiple offers? I asked them that first. Yes, great. I said, how'd you come up with $300,000? Now, why do you think I'm saying, how did you come up with $300,000? Anybody? What's that, Larry?
You're letting them hang your other agent.
I'm letting them hang their other agent for what?
Paying too much.
Pay too much, incompetence?
Too much.
What am I gonna ask them next about, hey, did you use a blank clause? Anybody ever heard? You know what? I said to them, great people, Mandy and David, great people. I said, hey, you know, when you bought this home, did you use an escalation clause? And they kind of looked at me like I was crazy, and like, an escalation clause? And I'm like, yes. And because they had already saw these other 2 comps that sold for like $2,500, $1,500 more, and they were like, and she said, no, she goes, oh God, we paid way too much for it. And I said, well, did you not use an escalation clause? Because see, I'm building instant credibility, saying, hey, Jimmy Welch knows what he's talking about. And I said, let me explain to you what an escalation clause does. And this is literally why we were sitting down at the table. I said, basically, we write a clause in there and says that, hey, we will pay you $1,000 more than the best offer, provided that you provide us proof that you have an offer better than ours. If not, we're gonna pay you $284.9, but we'll pay you up to $300 if there was an offer for $299. But there wasn't an offer for $299, I guarantee it. So instantly, she's looking at her husband, and this is no crack. She's looking at her husband, and she's like, I told you he was stupid. I told you. You know, she's just busting him right in front of me. So I'm feeling pretty good right now. I'm like, okay. I'm feeling like now I'm kind of winning them over. They trust me. They like me. Now I'm starting to show them facts, and I talk to them about the eyes of the buyers. And so then I get in there, I told them already location, condition, price is 3 things that sell. And then I say, okay, Mandy, David, you know, here's my deal. Here's my job. And what is my job as an agent? Anybody know what your job as an agent is? 1, you want to market their home in such a way that what?
It's the most money, the least amount of time.
Sells for the most money, and what else?
In the least amount of time.
Least amount of time? All right, so let's look at that script. Hey, Mandy, I feel like our job as your agent is to market your home in such a way that we get the most people in your door in the shortest amount of time possible to get you an offer as close to asking price. Right? That's our job. That's my job as your agent. Here's my follow-up fact. By the way, on average, we sold our homes in 34 days, 98% of asking price. That's a pretty good little follow-up fact, right? Because they're thinking, holy shit, I'm gonna be moving in a month, right? And they're also, what else are they thinking? If I list my home for $300,000, what's 98% of 300,000? So I'm gonna get 294. That's what they're thinking, right? Because I just showed it to them. So that's our job. If you come through the door and you tell your client, hey, here's my job. I gotta market your home in such a way that I get the most people in your door, shortest amount of time possible so that I get you an offer as close as your asking price. And when you say it kind of like just how I said it. It flows out. It's not a script. It's not, hey, Mandy, my job is as your agent, I'm gonna market your home in such a way that, I mean, you gotta make it natural. You gotta say it the type of, you know, I have bad grammar. I blame it on I grew up in Oklahoma. I blame it on that. So I have bad grammar, and my wife always likes to correct me at the kitchen table, and I get mad about it. So make it come out the way you would talk to somebody. Make it come out nice and friendly and non, you know, just smooth. So our job. So right now, what do we have? 3 things to sell real estate, eyes of a buyer, and our job. Last one. Don't even ask me what this picture is. Looks like this guy's meditating, but it's called the 5-5-5 method. And I'm gonna tell you this, right now, today's market, the 5-5-5 method's pretty hard to do. Anybody ever heard of the 5-5-5 method? Anybody? Have you? Okay. When I show comps, I like to show, if I have five homes that are for sale, 5 that are in contract and 5 that close, if I'm in a big neighborhood and I can do it, I love to do that. But right now it's pretty tough because not much inventory. Things are selling pretty quick, and so it might be hard to find 5 homes for sale. So what I'm gonna look at is we use the 5-5-5 method to establish the value of your home. Okay, we're gonna look at 5 homes for sale, 5 that are under contract, and 5 that are sold. Now, you gotta change the script because it might be the 3-3-3 method, right? It might be the 2-2-2 method, but we would love the 5-5-5 method. And you can say, hey, I'll use the 5-5-5 method, but unfortunately your neighborhood doesn't have that many sales, so it's gonna be a little bit different. So, here's what's important about the 5. The 5 that are for sale, they're our competition, okay? Why is that important? Anybody?
That's what you're up against.
Hell yeah, that's what you're up against, Susan. So if you got a home that, say you're in Forest Springs off LaGrange Road, and there's a lot of homes for sale that are 2,200 square foot storing a house with 2-car garages and finished basements that are $290, and your client says, and she's 2,200 square feet with a 2-car garage and a finished basement, she says she wants to be $310, and you got 5 that are for sale, where are you? You're above the market, right? The 500 contracts shows what are selling right now. Okay, so we want to know, one, is what's selling right now.
So
Right.
Jimmy, you do that separate than just comps,
Yeah, I'll
So
do
you
I'll do them at the same time because here's what I'm saying.
but you have 2 separate, like, here's the comps and then here's 5-5-5 or 3-3-3.
Well, the 5-5-5 has the comps in it because let me get to this next one. I'll show you what I mean. Because the 5 under contract shows right what are selling right now, but the 5 that are sold are the most important
Right.
when establishing value because it shows what people actually paid for the home. And by the way, right, if an appraiser comes out, if lender sends an appraiser out to the home, is he bringing 5 that are for sale and 5 that are under contract? No, he's only looking at closed homes. And I always, when I tell people, has anybody ever been on a listing appointment and they say, oh, you know, they're asking $389 for their home.
Yep.
Well, you know what? Who cares? They can ask for whatever they want. It's what somebody pays for it is what matters. So the 5 that are sold are the most important when establishing value because it shows what people actually paid for the home. And so, now this is what's great. So I talked to them about the 5 that are for sale, and we talked about positioning, right? We're talking about how do we want to position ourselves in the market. If there's 5 that are for sale, don't we want to look better than these 5? So when we talk about positioning, we're talking about, okay, if only 3 homes sell every 6 months and there's 5 for sale right now, you have 9 months of inventory, right? So do you want to position yourself where you're going to be one of those first couple that sell? Or do you want to position yourself out? So that's part of positioning with active. Under contract, you know, you really don't know what they closed for though, so that's kind of tough. But the 5 that sold, they're the most important. Okay, now here's where it gets good. And I'm telling you, we talk about this all the time. And I'm going to give you 2 real life examples. Heart of hearts. When you show these comps to your people, and before you come out to their home, don't they kind of have an idea of what they want for their home, right? A lot of times they kind of know what they want. And how many times do they kind of think their home is worth less than what it really is? It's usually they're thinking it's worth more. So when you show those 5 that have sold, which are the most important because they establish value, what do you say next? And here's what I say next. Hey Pam, Jamie, appreciate y'all having me out today. By the way, y'all just got married. Hey Pam, Jamie, I appreciate y'all having me out today. Now that we looked at your comps, and we looked at the ones that sold, and those are the ones that really establish value. In your heart of hearts, what do you think your home's worth? In your heart of hearts, what do you think your home's worth? So they're looking at it right there. Now they might talk before I got over and said my home's worth $350, but now they see the facts, and sometimes they'll say, well, before you came here, I thought it was worth $350, but after looking at this, so that's why we use heart of hearts. After looking at homes that sold in your neighborhood, let me ask you a question. In your heart of hearts, where do you think your home should be priced at compared to these homes? The beauty of that is now you're taking it off your plate and putting it on their plate, and you're saying, tell me what it's worth. So, what if they come back and tell you, and you think the home's worth $300,000? What if they come back and they say, we think it's $325,000? What do you do?
That's not what this says.
Well, Jamie, what would you do? Jamie, I think my home's worth $325,000, and you think it's worth $300,000. What are you gonna do?
I'm gonna go over the comps again.
Okay.
I'm gonna go through comps.
What are you gonna ask me though? Here's what I'm gonna ask. If Jamie told me, hey Jimmy, I think it's worth $325,000, you know what I'm gonna say to Jamie? I say, hey Jamie, tell me why you think it's $325,000. I'm gonna put it back on Jamie, and I'm gonna say, Jamie, tell me why you think it's $325,000. You know what he's gonna say? He's gonna say, well, Jimmy, I have a finished basement. I say, okay. So do these 5. Well, Jimmy, I have hardwood and granite in my kitchen. Okay. So do these. What else, Jamie? So I'm wanting him to justify why he thinks it's $325,000. And then I want to come back to him, and if I'm wrong, and if there's something he has that I'm missing, oh, okay, I didn't get that, Jamie, that is that. If he says, hey, Jimmy, my home's blah, 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 and it's got an extra 100 square feet. Well, okay, Jamie, I get it. You have an extra 100 square feet. What do you think that extra 100 square feet's worth? Do you really think it's worth $25,000? Extra 100 square feet? By the way, Jamie, I didn't tell you, you only got a 2-car garage. 3 of these homes had 3-car garages. By the way, Jamie, you only have 2 full baths, and 4 of these homes had 3 full baths. I mean, so you gotta have your ducks in a row and know what you want, but whenever someone says, in their heart of hearts, they think it's worth more than what I think it's worth, I say, well, why do you think it's worth $325,000 compared to these homes I just showed you? And I put it back on them. Now, instantly, they are scrambling to think, why is my home worth $25,000 more? And they gotta come up with a reason. And they might say, well, we redid our bath and we added new flooring and we painted. Well, I looked at these other comps, comps too. You gotta know your homework. So, in your heart of hearts. Now, I always say this, if you agree with the seller, compliment them on their decision. Larry, even though you never graduated from high school, I agree with what you thought your home was worth, and I appreciate it. And I'm amazed you got your GED and got your license.
Me too.
All right, so congratulations, Larry. If you disagree, ask the sellers more questions. Hey, do you think extra square feet matters? Is there value to an updated bath? Are the kitchens finished the same? So you gotta ask them questions.
I think one of the big questions though, like you're talking about, is if somebody does have a finished basement,
Mhm.
they really think if they put 50 grand into it, they think they're gonna get that 50 out of it. And that's been a lot of mine, like, well, we've got a finished basement. Well, you're right, these other ones do also.
Okay, and so to Susan's point, one of the things that I do as part of my job as a team leader is I gotta coach, mentor, and train agents that work for us. We have 11 agents on our team. So, and the 11 agents I have on my team, I wouldn't trade them for anybody. I mean, I love them, they're great people. One of the things we do is we always bring in an appraiser to handle one of our team meetings. And so I'll bring in Donna Walsh, and she owns her own appraisal company, and her son works for her. And I have my agents sit there with a list of questions. Hey Donna, what's the value of above grade square footage? What's the value of below grade square footage? What's the value of a 2-bedroom versus a 3-bedroom? What's the value of a walkout basement? What's the value of a 3-car garage versus 2-car? What's the value of attached versus detached? And they fire questions to her. And now there's appraisals are not exact science, but I can tell you this. Donna will say, well, you know what, if it's a finished square feet in the basement, depending on the condition of the basement, I'm gonna give them 20, 25 bucks a foot. She'll tell you. And then she says, if it's above grade square footage, I'm probably gonna give them somewhere between 35 and 45, depending on the neighborhood. If it's a high-end neighborhood, I'll probably give a little bit more. If it's a, home like in Hikes Point, I'll probably give them a little bit less. If it's a 3-car garage versus 2-car garage, I'll give this much. So we gotta kinda I compare it to having arrows in your quiver. When someone's countering you, you counter them. Hey, I know you think your home's worth $325 and these comps, are all $300. And by the way, what do you think an extra 3-car garage is worth compared to 2-car garage? Oh, I don't need 3 cars, but I know you don't need a 3-car garage, but what do you think it's worth? Is that worth $5,000? So you gotta be ready for that. So those are our, I would say this, go ahead.
I don't know if this is a good time to ask this question, if you want to do
Yeah.
something, but it fits in here. What do you do with those people that they're with you on the heart-to-heart part,
Mhm.
but they're not being rational and they need more than the market would really bring? Let's just say in this situation, it's a $299, but they want 325. Do you say, we can try that, and if we don't get a response, the market's gonna determine the value, we can lower the price, or do you just, how do you handle it?
I never wanna take a listing for more money than what it's worth. And I can tell you this, I had a listing appointment Friday, I think it was. Pretty good week, we had quite a few listing appointments. But I had 4 listing appointments in the past 7 days. I took 3 of them, the 4th one I took because I didn't take. And when I say I didn't take it. Because they told me they wanted more than $400,000 for their condo. And I said, it's not worth more than $400,000. I didn't say it like that, but I said, here's the comps. Now look, this home sold for $398,000. This is a true example. This home sold for $398,000. It's got hardwood throughout the first floor. My client, by the way, had carpet in the dining room, great room, and master. They had hardwood throughout. They had stainless steel appliances. My clients had white. They had granite countertops. My clients had Formica. Their bathroom was updated. My client's bathroom was 20 years old. So I show them all this stuff, and I said, hey, listen, if you want me to sit here and tell you I can get you more than 400, I can't. So, I mean, I'm not gonna tell you I can do something knowing I can't. And so, if somebody would say, well, hey, entertain me and list it for $325, I would, and I've done this before on listings, I said, here's the deal. If we list it for $325 and we don't sell it in the first 30 days, you agree to list it at my price. And you can put that on your listing agreement. You can put price reductions on a listing agreement that automatically lower at the time. I typically, and here's how I also say this, I say, hey, listen, I invest from day one in your listing. And so if I'm gonna list something that I know is overpriced and not gonna appraise, I'm wasting your time, I'm wasting my time and my money. So let's be smart about this. By the way, why else does it make sense not to list something that's overpriced? What's the most important thing in the first 30 days of a listing, right? That's when you get the most activity, most showings, that's when you wanna sell it. So if you're $25,000 overpriced in your first 30 days, you shot yourself in the foot. Any other questions before we get off this? All right, so let me get out of this, and we're gonna jump to what I think is, listen, I think scripts are great, and you gotta know them, but we're gonna jump to Ford, if I can get there. Okay, Ford. Now, I will tell you this, and here's the thing I say about Ford. And I'm a big believer on this, and my team laughs at me when I talk about this sometimes because, and I'm gonna use examples from last week. Ford, whether you're trying to convert an internet lead on the phone, you're trying to convert a listing, if you're not trying to figure out Ford when you're talking to people, you're missing the boat. Because why do people work with you? Because they like you and trust you. So what do you want to do? You want to establish rapport, right? So, how do you establish rapport? Well, Ford, and we're not talking about the truck. Clients do business with you because they like you. If they don't like you, then you won't be their agent, plain and simple. Sure, you have knowledge and expertise, but establishing a common bond goes a long way. So, your job, to establish that bond with Ford. Now, Ford, family, occupation, recreation, dreams. So let's talk about family. If you're on a listing appointment, what questions do you ask? What family questions do you ask?
How many children you have?
Children. What else?
How long you been married?
How long you been married? What else?
Grew up in Louisville.
Perfect. Did you grow up in Louisville? What else? They say, yeah, I grew up in Louisville. What's your next question?
Where'd you go to high school?
Pam said, where'd you go to high school? Where'd you grow up in Louisville? Yeah. Okay. What else? Anything else? You have other family living here? Yeah, my mom and dad live here. Oh, great. Where your mom and dad live? Okay. I'm sorry, what's your name?
Joni.
Tony?
Joni.
Joni? Joni, what neighborhood did you grow up in? Okay. Hey, so if you ask me a question and say, hey Jimmy, where'd you grow up in? Where'd you grow up? Just say, hey Jimmy, where'd you grow up?
Jimmy, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in the Highlands. What are you gonna say?
Where'd you go to high school?
I went to Atherton.
So did I. What year did you
Okay.
graduate?
Yeah, okay.
Everything's
So listen, you said so did I. So what are you doing? You're establishing rapport, right? So family. Family, so hey, where did they grow up? Where's their family now? Do they have any siblings? Do you have any children? So you focus on their answers and you ask more questions. And I tell you what, I love this one because, you know, if I talk to somebody and they say, I lived in a lot of different places when I was younger, you know, I moved around a little bit. We lived in Okolona when I was a kid. We moved out to Westport when I was in probably 6th grade. And then, you know, when I first got out on my own, I lived in J-Town, I lived in Heights Point, I lived off Cooper Chapel, I lived in St. Matthews, I lived off Billtown. So I kind of moved around a little bit. And so when someone says, hey, I say, oh, you know, where'd you grow up? And they say, oh, I lived in J-Town. Oh, where in J-Town? Oh, I lived off Billtown Road. I said, I did too. I said, where off Billtown Road? Oh, we lived in Lake of the Woods subdivision. I did too. What street were you on? Lake of the Woods Drive. And so I'm always looking to establish, hey, where'd you go? The other thing I ask is big, you know, oh, you from here? Yeah, we grew up in East End, great. Whoops. I don't know what I just did, but I did something wrong. So anyway, I always think that family thing is, you know, pretty important. Where'd you grow up? You got any brothers or sisters? Where'd they go to high school? Now, high school is a big one because if they say, hey, I grew up in the East End, well, you know what? They probably went to Eastern, they probably went to Ballard, and you might have a connection with them, right? If they say they grew up in South End or Southern, probably, you know, or, you know, they could go to Catholic schools, Catholic, or, you know, Christian Academy or KCD, but there's always a connection with family. Now, here's the one I love too, occupation. So, I'm talking to somebody, and I'm gonna pick on Jamie. Jamie, what do you do for work?
Sell real estate.
Well, lie to me.
I sell cars.
You sell cars? Oh, where do you sell cars at?
Car lot. Hyundai Louisville.
Hyundai of Louisville? Okay, did you work anywhere besides Hyundai?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, what other dealerships?
Worked at several Swope.
Did you? I bought my car from Swope. What'd you sell back then?
Mostly Toyotas.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? I used to have a Toyota Camry. Love that car. And so I'm trying to find out, you know, another thing. If he said he's sold at car dealerships and worked at Swope, you know, I have a friend of mine that I went to high school with. His last name's Whitaker, and he's a store manager. And I'm gonna say, hey, by the way, did you know Steve Whitaker? You know, I'm gonna throw out something like this because I'm gonna say, hey, that's a friend of mine. And, you know, did you work with blah blah blah? If they say, hey, I worked at UPS. How many people in this room know somebody that works at UPS? Right? They say they work at UPS. What's your next question? What do you do for UPS? Well, I'm in international.
Or do you know? That's what they say.
Yeah. Yeah, so you know what? If they say something like, hey, I'm in international, you know what? Oh, that's crazy. My uncle was in international. And by the way, I sold a home to a guy named John Bach who was in international. By the way, my cousin Joe Welch is in international. I mean, I know people right now that I'm thinking in the back of my mind, I wonder if they know these people. Because if they do, they might ask them about me, you know, and then I'm going to get a good referral. If they say they work at GE, anybody know anybody who works at GE? They work at Humana, they work at Ford. I mean, when people used to tell me they worked at Ford, you know what I'd say? Which one? Chamberlain Lane or Fern Valley? And they'd say, I work at Fern Valley. And I'd say, great. I said, how long you been there? Oh, I've been there 10 years. I said, it's kind of crazy, but the guy lives across the street from me. His name's John Savona. I think he runs that Fern Valley plant, doesn't he? And I'd say that like that. I know he runs it. And they're like, oh yeah, John Savona, yeah, he's the #1 guy there. And then if they said, hey, and that's a true story. If they say, hey, I work at the Chamberlain facility. Oh, what do you do at Chamberlain? Oh, I'm on the line. I said, cool. I said, you know what? You know a guy named Joe Bobner? And they'll say, who? And I said, Joe Bobner. I said, he lives next door to me. He runs that Chamberlain facility. So the two people ran forward. One lived directly across the street from me, and one lived next door to me. And so if they said Ford, I loved it. I'm like, hey, do you know this guy? Or I'd use other people. I knew that if he said he worked online, I got friends that work online. So instantly I'm trying to establish occupation. What they do for a living, how long have they been in that occupation? What did they do before? Jamie, did you work in any other car dealerships? Larry, what did you do before real estate?
Finance.
Finance. What exactly did you do in finance?
High school treasurer.
Really? What school?
Yeah, Ballard.
No way. Did you go to Ballard, Larry?
For a little while. I didn't graduate.
You didn't graduate from high school. I forgot about that. You got your GED there, though, right? And then that's when you took your license. So, you know, that was just kind of natural. Like, I didn't know, Larry's never told me that, but if you were kind of talking to him just casually, so what do you do before real estate? I did finance, Jimmy. Oh, really? For who? For a high school treasurer. Oh, what high school? Ballard. Cool. Did you go there? No. You see, I'm kind of probing questions and trying to get, where'd you go to high school, Larry?
Ballard.
You did go to Ballard, but you didn't graduate. Okay. What year would you have been, Larry, if you graduated?
92.
Damn, you're young. And so, anyway, so it's just naturally kind of asking questions to establish that rapport. So, focus on their answers, ask more questions. That's occupation. I'm telling you, you know, if you look at your past clients, you should know where your past clients work. And I'm telling you, and it's part of developing a relationship with your client, but if one of my clients comes in the door, I know where he works. Hey, Kevin, you know, how's the energy business, Kevin? What do you see going on right now? And Kevin's a client of mine, good friend of mine, used to be, worked for a big, used to be president for a big energy business. And, you know, he's referred me clients, he's been a good friend of mine for years. But, you know, when we talk, when we have lunch or whatever, hey, how's the energy business going? Well, you know, we're growing it right now, we're doing some new markets, blah, 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 blah. What's the new thing in energy? You know, I mean, I can talk to him about his business, and then usually, you know, we'll eat lunch and all that stuff and kind of end it there, but you know, you always want to know what's going on with their work. Recreation. Okay, let's talk about recreation. You don't sit in your listening appointment and say, hey, Caitlin, what do you do for recreation? You know, you don't, it's not like that. But you know, one of the questions I might ask, I said, after I find out they work at, you know, your husband used to sell cars, right? What'd you do before real estate?
Worked at a bank.
Okay, worked at a bank. Okay, so when I'm talking to Caitlin and her husband about working at a bank and selling cars, you know, and then y'all have 2 kids now?
Mm-hmm.
And I might casually bring it up like this. I'll say, hey, what's your husband's first name again?
Caleb.
Caitlin, what do you guys like doing outside of work? Because I just left occupation, and now when I say, what do you like doing outside of work? What am I really talking about? I'm talking about recreation. So, hey, Caitlin, what do you guys like doing outside of work?
We like hiking.
Really? Where do you go hiking at?
We try a new trail all over Louisville.
No way.
Can we go out?
You know what? It's so funny you say that, Caitlin, because I was at the airport and ran into one of my past clients named Scott. He's a big hiker, and actually when we go to Vegas every year, he will go to a canyon out in Vegas and hike for 4 days. And he backpacks, and he sets up a tent and spends the night in the parks and all that stuff. But he was telling me about a real cool trail, and this is how I try to relate to Caitlin and Caleb. He was telling me about a real cool trail that when you cross the new bridge and go east, it's about a mile off the new bridge, and it was a 2.5 mile trail that runs around the river. That was real cool that he's going. He gave me, there's an app on my phone that I downloaded. It's called Trails USA or something. I don't know if you have that app.
I have one of them.
Yeah, so anyway, But I would instantly, when she told me she likes hiking, I'd instantly tell her that. And then I'd also tell her, you know, I got a lady on my team that, you know, she's been hiking in Colombia, she's been hiking in Switzerland, she goes all over, that's her number one thing. So, Jamie, what do you do for fun?
Fish.
Fish? What do you like fishing for?
Bass.
I suck at bass fishing. Yeah, I mean, I would tell them this, listen, man, I tried to, there's some type of knot you tie on there, and I forget what it's called. Do you know what I'm talking about? You tie like a
It's not
special.
fly fishing.
No, it's like a bass, it's a bass fishing, but you gotta tie your hook, cause I can't even do it the right way. I Googled it and all this stuff. Texas something, I think. Texas rig?
Texas rig, yeah.
Yeah, Texas rig. I don't know what the hell, but I'm starting to talk to him about bass fishing. Now, I will tell you this, my cousin, Mike Lieber, listen, he carries his boat every day to work. He goes fishing in the summertime. He's a bass fisherman, goes down to Florida, goes all over the place, and he enters these competitions because that's his passion. Do you fish a lot?
No.
Every weekend?
Try to.
Wow. What's the biggest bass you ever caught?
8 pounds.
Wow. So I'm trying to establish rapport. So you're asking, you know, hey, what do you do? Now I'm gonna tell you this. People will say, hey Jimmy, what do you do outside of work? Larry, what do I do outside of work?
Nothing.
Larry, what do I like doing outside of work?
I know. Oh, you want to
Poker
say
player.
Yeah.
Poker. Okay, listen. I love poker. I'm a freak about poker. I've read 14 books. I play it all the time. I play it online. I go to the casino. But you know what? Here's the deal. Poker, I've established relationships at the poker room that have sold me homes. And people have referred me from knowing me. They'll say, oh, you're Jimmy the Realtor. Yeah, what about this? What about this? But I bet you over the years, I could honestly say I probably had 8 to 10 deals from playing cards. You know, so that's my recreation, that's my hobby. Passions, you know, I like volunteering. Okay, my listing appointment that I didn't get, that I basically turned down because of price. I said, you know, I was talking to them about what they do outside of work, recreation, and she goes, you know, I really like volunteering at my church. They were retired, they were in their 70s. I said, oh, that's great, you know. I said, yeah, that's awesome. I said, what church you go to? Trinity Presbyterian. For y'all that don't know, Trinity Presbyterian is like right up the street. And I said, now this is how it works. Trinity Presbyterian? I said, are you kidding me? And she's like, no, why? I said, well, Sean Barkley and I are friends. You're kidding me, you're friends with Sean? Sean's the minister at Trinity Presbyterian. I actually sold him, and here's where I'm establishing rapport and gaining confidence. I said, do you know that I actually sold Sean and Amy Jo their home when they took their other job at the other church? You did? Well, you know what? How does this lady feel that she spends all her time volunteering at church and the minister that runs that church, he's a client of mine. And so, and sure enough, when I left that appointment, even though I didn't get it, I texted Sean and Amy Jo and said, hey, listen, I just met so-and-so and they knew you from Trinity Presbyterian and told me to tell you hello. So that's works for me. So passions, something they always want to do. It's always recreation. It's always about trying to establish rapport. Last thing is, what are your dreams? Well, again, you can't say what are your dreams, but it can be, hey, what's on your bucket list? Hey, what's the end game here? What are you trying to accomplish? Well, you know what? We're trying to downsize. We're trying to get out of this big ass home and move down to the beach in Florida. They're going to tell you what their dreams are if you like, and their dreams might be, hey, we just want to get rid of this home so we can get from point A to point B and start our new job and our new kids' school and all that stuff. That might be their temporary dream. But we ask about this too. What are their goals? Well, you know what? Hey, we want to downsize, and here's why. We don't want this big mortgage payment. We want to live debt-free. Oh, great. And then I'll start hitting to them, oh, you know, you listen to Dave Ramsey, you know, I'm Dave Ramsey ELP. You know, I'll try to establish more rapport with them. Aspirations, what they do, now, same thing. Focus on their answers, ask more questions. I will tell you this, and I mean it in all seriousness. That Ford, every day, whether it's if you're doing internet lead generation, if you're doing cold calling for sale by owners expires, all this stuff matters. A lot of times when believe me, I used to do internet lead generation on a daily business. There used to be a website years ago called Home Gains. Anybody heard of Home Gains? Larry, you heard?
Yeah.
I don't even know if it's in existence anymore. It literally was the service that sent me leads. And when I talked to a a lead, and they were wanting to buy, you know, a home, and I'm gonna give you a perfect example. A lady named Patty, one day, I had my kid in my car, and I get a text message on my phone that a lead just came in. It's a 312 number. I'm like, well, hell, they're from Chicago. Maybe they're relocating to Louisville. Boom, click. Hey, this is Jimmy. I saw you on my website. Looking for homes. I just want to reach out and see how I can help you, blah, blah, blah. And she's, oh, hey, my name's Patty. I said, okay, Patty. I said, well, Patty, how can I help you? Well, me and my husband think we're moving to Louisville. I said, oh, great. I said, what's taking you to Louisville? Oh, my job. What's your husband do? Oh, he's in the financial business. I said, great. Well, all of a sudden, I'm talking to her, and I'm in my car, and I forget, and I hear, welcome to McDonald's. How may I help you? And I'm like, she starts busting out laughing, and I'm like, I'm sorry, Patty. I got my kid in my car, and I said, we're getting ready to order food, and she goes, oh, go ahead, go ahead. And I said, you know, give me a Big Mac meal, blah, blah, blah. And so anyway, I ordered food, and I said, I'm sorry, Patty, I got my boy in the car with me, and she's like, oh, don't worry, I have 3 kids, I know how it is. Oh, I said, and then instantly, we're not talking about home. I said, how old are your kids? I'm not worried about real estate. I'm worried about establishing a rapport with Patty, right? So she was like, well, Keegan is 10 or 11 at the time, Caden's 4, and Kylie's 8. Real names, real family. And I said, well, okay, awesome. I said, what are your kids into? Well, blah, blah, you know, Keegan's plays baseball and he plays football. Matter of fact, Keegan was the starting quarterback this year for St. X. Pretty big deal. And this is, you know, 6, 7 years ago I'm talking to her. So I'm starting to establish rapport. I said, hey, what's your husband gonna do? Well, he's in the financial business. I said, what are you looking for? Well, you know, we got to sell our home in Chicago and we're looking at Louisville. I'm like, great, you know, what price range are you looking? And she tells me, I said, what part of town? Well, everybody, my husband's working in Anchorage. I mean, this is 7 years ago. I still remember it like it's yesterday. He's working in Anchorage, so we want to be close by. And, you know, we've heard about some of these neighborhoods. And I'm like, oh, what neighborhoods have you heard of? And she told me, and I was like, well, that's where I live. Well, guess what? Here's a woman moving from Chicago with her 3 kids. She already knows I have kids. I've already established, you know, a relationship with her and what her kids like to do and what they're into. And I'm talking on the phone, and then I switched over to, what are you looking for? Where are you looking? And the neighbors, she told me, that's where I live. Now, the crazy thing is, when they moved to Louisville, they couldn't buy because their home wasn't sold, so they had to rent for a year. But because I established a relationship with them, a year later, they're calling me, and I sold them a home, a nice home. And real good people. But I'm telling you, that's why I think Ford, I think people miss the bucket on this stuff, whether they're doing listing presentations or internet lead generation. They get leads, and they're so worried about, hey Jamie, I saw you on my website. You know, what are you looking for? Oh, I was just looking. Oh, okay. Well, listen, I'm going to set you up on a search. If you tell me, no, I'm just looking. Okay. Well, you know what? That's 90% of internet lead generation. But if you get someone on an internet lead who starts talking, and you can establish any type of relationship with them, you know, hey Jamie, why are you looking to move to J-Town? Well, I want to be closer to my work. Oh, really? What do you do for work? I work for, you know, XYZ packaging company off Bluegrass Parkway. Oh, yeah, I know exactly where that is. I'm about 5 minutes away. Oh, really? Where are you at? Well, we're right off Shelbyville Road, but I cut down Blankenbaker to get to Bluegrass. Oh, yeah. So, how long you been there? Blah, blah, blah. And so I'm starting to talk to him, let him talk about himself and what he does, and then he's going to feel proud about what he does because I care about what he does. So, anyway, Ford, I think that's the number one. The listing scripts I use, they work. The 555 method, all that stuff, our job, all that stuff works. I guess if I would wrap it up to you, I think sometimes as agents, I think we feel like we lose the fact we're more worried about the sale than the person. And if you worry about the person, the sale's gonna come. And that's when you gotta actually, and listen, when I talk about Ford, I'm not doing it from a non-caring way. I care. Because if I take care of these people, they're gonna take care of me, so I truly care. So you gotta care, and you can't, you know, oh, you work off blank bears, good. Okay, so what price range? I mean, you gotta really care about it. So, any questions about Ford?
How long are you in on your listing presentation?
Depends. I try to keep it less than an hour, but sometimes, like yesterday on my listing appointment, when I went on that listing appointment, they wanted to sign paperwork right then and there. And you know, that was the appointment I talked to you about, the escalation clause and all that stuff. They were ready to go. And so we signed paperwork, we're well on the market Friday. But I try to keep it rolling. I try to, you know, stay under an hour if I can. I do try to establish Ford. I will, if Ford's going good for me, and I know that I'm getting them to communicate back and forth with me, I don't care if I stay 2 hours. Because what's the end game? The end game is to have them as a client, right? And if it takes 15 minutes or, you know, 5 hours, you want that client. Because if not, Caitlin's gonna come in, Larry's gonna come in, Pam's gonna come in, somebody's gonna come in and get them. And I've lost plenty of listings. It takes me a while to recover, but I think, you know, I don't think there's a right answer to how long the time takes, but I try to stay under an hour. Any other questions?
So you basically use Forward to make a connection to build a rapport.
Hell yeah.
So you're trying to connect something, every time they say something, you wanna,
Whether it's the guy working at, and when I say whether it's the guy working at Academy Sports and I'm buying a bass fishing pole for my son, and I pick up the guy who's selling me the bass fishing pole as a client, I'm using Ford with him. It just comes natural. After you do it for so long, it comes natural, but that's how I'm doing it. Go ahead.
Well, I want you to back up to those calls where if they do say, oh, no, I just wanna look, I was just, you know, I was interested in this house, or my neighbor's selling their house, I was being nosy. So, how
Okay.
could you even use Ford with that?
Well, hold on. So you're just looking, well, let me ask you a question. If you could find the perfect home at the perfect price and the perfect location, would you buy it? Yes. Well, what's the perfect location? Perfect location is Middletown. Well, why is that perfect for you? Well, because it's gonna put me close to work, it's gonna put me close to where my kids go to school. Oh, I didn't know you had kids. How old are your kids? See how I turned it to Ford right away? Well, they're 10 and 12. Where are they gonna go to school? Well, they're gonna go to Crosby. Oh, Crosby, yeah, my best friend lives 2 doors down from me. That's where his kids go. So
You know everybody.
Well,
I don't fear.
so I instantly,
Living here and being here.
well, it helps. Now listen,
but Jimmy doesn't know that.
but I instantly turn it to Ford. I'm telling you, if you can get Ford, you're establishing a relationship with them. If you're not trying to get Ford and you're more robotic on the phone and you're like, hey, okay, what price range are you looking? Where are you looking at? Do you want me to set you on a search? You know, if you got somebody who, think of all your, for those who've been in it a while, think of all your past clients. Did you ever establish Ford with them? Have you?
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, you have to. You have to develop a relationship with them or they're never gonna give you business. So, I do that. You had a question?
Yeah, it's not really that great.
No, go ahead. Fire away.
Do you print out, when you do show comps, do you show them on a computer or do you actually print out all the listings?
Both. I'll take an iPad and I'll print them out.
Okay.
A lot of times when I print them out, I slide them over to them. I have them upside down. I'll have a copy myself too.
Yeah.
And I do it a little bit differently. Like I'll print out the listing and sometimes I'll print out CMA. But on the listing, I'll make notes because I'll see what the subject is and I know what their home has. And then I'll make notes, hardwood throughout, stainless and granite, updated master bath, finished basement, walkout. I'll make notes. So when I slide them over, they can see my notes too.
Okay.
And they know how it compares to their home.
So you don't have to really print out the pictures, you just.
Right. They know, and then I'll say, hey, let's look at these pictures to make sure we're comparing apples to apples. And then when I say, hey, in your heart of hearts, where do you think you should be priced at? When Mandy and David told me $315 yesterday, I said, perfect, right on the money. No further discussion. Let's sign this paperwork right now and get going because you won't be on the market Friday, right? But literally, perfect, no discussion. Great. You're a lot smarter than your husband, Mandy. I mean, seriously, I joke with him like that. But any other questions?
I just have a comment. I'm training a brand new agent, and one thing that I talked to him about is, you know, it might be hard. You want to pull forward out some way, and you might not be the best conversationalist. I said, notice. What are they wearing? What's their bumper stickers?
Yes.
So sometimes it's about their U of L hoodie. You know, you don't say, and know how to say maybe who's your team, but what are they, you know, if they're a hunter and they've got on camo, you know, just
Yeah.
whatever, just being
Yeah, just
observant.
notice, yeah.
And then, you know, oh, did you kill that, you know, the deer's hanging on, did you kill that yourself? No, my son's into it, you know, whatever, or is their kid an honor roll student at some school down the road, you know, whatever, look at their vehicles, what they're driving and what they're wearing. It can just be from you being observant.
Ford is any way imaginable that you can develop, and it's kind of like, I kind of always joke with my team. I say, hey, imagine if, you know, if you're a guy and you're trying to impress a girl, you know, if you're a single guy and you're impressing a girl, you know, you're gonna ask her all kinds of questions. You know, you're gonna really care about what they like to do and what they wanna, you know, what their dreams are and what do you do for work. Oh, that's so cool. You're a server at Outback. That's awesome. I mean, I can't imagine. That's gotta be the best. I mean, but listen. I mean, listen. You really care because you're trying to win them over, right? You're trying to make them like you. You're trying to make them like you and trust you. It's no different than, like, you think about it. The first girl you dated or woman you dated that you were trying. You know, you asked them all the questions. You asked them, hey, what about your family? What do you like to do? You know, what's your dreams? What do you want to do when you graduate? I mean, same thing. You know. Any other questions? You sure?
It was really good training.
That was great.
That was awesome.
Hey, thank you guys. I appreciate you coming by. I appreciate it.
Lee, can you get a copy of those scripts?
Yeah, I'll get you a copy. Just come back.
Email you?
Yeah, just come back.